Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation that enters a space of mindfulness to the act of drawing. This week we'll explore convergence, or the ways of negotiating complex boundaries to form new territories, to let a drawing emerge from the initial acts of intervention and manipulation of simple lines and grids on the page, and look at their place of meeting, their threshold, the place of contact, and how we can bring them together, tie them together into a larger network. We'll play a little bit with rhythms, a little bit with spacing and orientation, so feel free to explore closeness, farness, density, overlap, separation, as we build out kind of territory or map, something akin to potentially a street grid of a city, but could become anything else along the way, so we'll see what we find. I'm just going to use a pen, keep a pencil and a marker handy in case I want a little extra value or intensity. And our primary focus and meditation will be on the line. A sequence of lines in many directions, but mostly just forming that line, being there, present in its emergence on the paper. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Go ahead and get started. Just going to use a pen, but have other things handy if you want them. Marker or pencil. What we'll work on today is space of negotiation and threshold, but mostly a focus on the line and the forming of a line and sequence to develop regions and areas. So that might look a bit like a grid at first. And you might just start out somewhere on a warm-up piece to make a little grid, the most normal type, perhaps a somewhat even sequence of spacing in one direction, connected to another somewhat even, similar sequence of spacing in another direction. But if we think of these more as systems of lines, and not the overall mesh or grid there, we can play around with that sequence and orientation a bit. So make a few in the warm-up of just thinking about the different spacings and rhythms you might explore. Do close, far, something regular but variable. The grid's different directions could be different. Maybe you start in the center, gradually work outward with slightly increasing spacing. Start at one side with a similar idea. So all sorts of patterns can emerge there. And through the exercise, we'll start with those, but with a focus on each line, and then we'll begin to bring them together, whether they start separated or overlapped, or a little bit of both, and find negotiation and connection between them. They don't have to be orthogonal. I suppose they don't even have to cross, but that'll just give us something to guide towards. Well, that'll be the basic structure. Along those lines, make sure everything's in place, prepared for the exercise, that you have something you enjoy writing with in the hand, or drawing with in the hand. You have a paper set up that's accessible, whether it's a sketchbook in front of you or a pad taped down to a table, and that your body is in a nice, relaxed, comfortable position. You give it a little movement side to side, some twist or oscillation forward and back. Anything that tests its edges, negotiates some of those boundaries that form between us and things around us, just to make sure they're in a nice state. And as you get ready to enter the exercise, take a few calming breaths, deep or shallow as you see fit. Something to notice, that oscillation in and out, the breath passing over the nose or the lips, the sound of it passing over the ears. The smells or senses of the air. Maybe even a little taste that passes through the mouth. subtle but variable. And the change in temperature and current that it brings along the way. And we'll look for those as we work in the space of the drawing, each line anchoring effect there. We'll do several small instances and iterations of things, so anywhere you feel comfortable beginning, just where the hand feels nice will be a good place to start. The orientation feels comfortable to your position, so not necessarily straight or orthogonal. But anything that you want to begin with, we'll just start that first line on the easy exhalation of your next breath. And follow out the breath to its completion of the line, whatever length that ends up giving you this time. That's the speed of your first engagement with the page. We'll see over time how that changes and progresses as we connect that attention between line and exhalation. So the next one, at some spacing, breathing in and then exhaling out. They don't need to be same length. If they end up being close, that's just a reflection of the breath cycle you're in. As they drift, as you change pace over time, just let them do what they do, bringing more attention to that movement of the pen on the paper. Breath, a guide of sound, a guide of touch, as you feel it passing out, the body noticing its full inhalation and full exhalation cycles. You can begin to work at a pace that matches your breathing. Feel the cues, just reminders of where to bring the attention. Giving yourself some room in between to breathe in, fill out some space, prepare for the exhalation. After you make some number of lines, even, random, some specific pattern, switching to a crossing orientation in some general vicinity, bring a little more convergence to the system. Following the same guiding rhythm, whether that's one inhalation to one exhalation, moving evenly in the context of the breath cycle, maybe a little quickly, in and out again. If you encounter any resistance to deciding on the next line, feel free to close the eyes in the choosing. Maybe on the inhalation breath, let the eyes close, move the pen roughly where you think it starts. As you open your eyes, verify it's somewhere in the vicinity, and then let the exhalation draw it out. These little patchworks, parts will weave or quilting forming. We'll bring a few together. As you're ready, come to completion of the space taken up there. Always come back and add more as we see through the exercise. Finding another place to begin. A new orientation or the same, far away or close, all just up to you. And again, if the choice becomes a challenge, just close the eyes with the breath in, And the hand drifts somewhere. And as you exhale, open, place, and draw. And then you do a little mix of exploring overlap and separation. The breath may guide them into either case. The initial starting point may start that as well. Breathing in, noticing a little more each line, the breath cycle well established, opening up some territory for us to notice the subtler things in the forming of the line. How does your hand sit? Is it resting on the page or the table? Is it gliding above it? How are you holding the pen or pencil? Does it feel familiar? Perhaps like writing? Feel stable or loose? How does the pen or pencil interface with the page? Smooth, silky, rough? Bit of scratch here between the felt and the page. After you've made a good number of lines again in one direction, coming back and starting in another. And you can experiment if things are present for you, some idea. What if this happened next? Or work in the arbitrary, just letting the eye and hand disconnect for a moment, find the beginning and the breath and attention to the stroke. Bring completion to each line moment. As you draw your next few lines, as we move to new territories or stick within the same, connect the vision sense to that line. Really notice how the pen or pencil connect to the paper, how they leave, deposit their material, how it moves, straight or wobbles a little bit. You may change how you draw. Noticing the way the line forms, of your connection between space, the eyes working across the zone between you and the paper, connection between the tool, the hand, arm, finger connection that guides the line. And all of them wrapped together. The sequence, relationships reflected in the paths left behind. And then we might speed up our pacing a little, being familiar with the tool, having observed some of its subtle nature. Keep its rhythm aligned with the body, the breath flowing in a cycle, not in a hurry, not deliberately slow, just moving at a pace. And wherever you're at with the lines, noticing the direction of action. Is it a pull or a push, a glide or drag? Thinking of the word that tries to capture the quality of what you notice there. Each one saying the word out. Be a scratch. Maybe a carve. Take a few moments and continue to create various patchworks, playing with the connection, the resonance or dissonance between horizontal and vertical, local and global. The pacing of the breath guiding that word. Scratch, cut, glide. Noticing it, evolving it, as your mind ponders over the adjective. The line becoming an expression of the word. The orientation of your body, perhaps changing the nature of that expression. Your mind changing the word to describe it. Going from a scratch to a glide, to a slice. And take a couple of minutes just to draw and meditate on those actions. You can keep adding patches on and on to the ends of the page. So feel free to do that anytime, or if you're in a groove of gliding, feathering, whatever other quality of line making comes to you. But we can also start to transition the look into what we're making there, whether you have zones of high overlap, interference, congestion between the moments, or zones of openness, gap, separation. You can draw them together one way or the other, letting the eye drift over the page a little bit, letting it take in the unique features that pop out of the page, the moments that draw you somewhere. And as you find one, taking that line now marked in the page as a cue, be tracing over it or along it, giving it new thickness on the paper, and extending, wrapping some way, bridging it across to the next territory, seeing where it goes, whether that's cutting it short, jumping over a little gap, continuing it through to become part of a larger network. You'll just examine the page for those things, and perhaps take some fun and some liberties Once the line becomes a bit of a shape, letting it go beyond its territory to find new area, new figure. With each one, something like this, a three-part corner condition forming there, taking a moment in between, finding a place of interest, whether it makes full shapes or negotiates transition from one system through an intersection to another, highlighting the passage, bringing one system's rhythm into another, the speed or frequency of one, matching the orientation of its neighbor, and potentially forming new connections. Just follow the eye, follow the hand, and see where it takes you around the space. Using the old lines as tracks, as tracings, as a re-mapping of the territory there. Anything that stands out, taking on a new position, perhaps a bit of shade to shapes that you find interesting. It's unknown where it will go, so following where it is. As the mind reads, the hand maps, the eyes reading out onto the page. And the suggestion of convergence can gain some connection. If anything, it's hard to follow in. One way to just let the mind wander in here is take loose edges and just extend them to the next boundary edge, letting spaces fill out the threads, not unraveled at the end, but connected to the next moment. If an edge becomes a stronger boundary, terminating many lines, perhaps it gets a little darker, a little heavier on the paper. Turning the mess into a bit of a system. The edges extend and make new edges. New path. And then some accidents, some coincidence of nearby points, lines may meet at a corner and become now more. You may give them thickness. You can reduce the slight inaccuracies of their meetings, becoming a heavy edge, a heavy line, new moment, unplanned, connecting both, beginning. Just take a few minutes to explore there in the territory, bringing anything to it that you like, color, shade, tone, extension. Perhaps slowly, as we let our mind travel here in the system, as we find local rules, connections, interesting moments of emergence, we find the potential for an endless negotiation of these open territories, potential to explore, to refine, to make some things stand out, others recede, a reworking, a remapping, with an endless time to interpretation. We keep going, but for now we look to where we've made the most intervention, perhaps extending of one line to the other. Look for a little bit of completion to that idea. As we slowly bring ourselves to a feeling of the end of a reading, primed, ready to separate our eyes from this moment, to return, if we like, at a later time and re-investigate what emerges there in the landscape. But for now, the idea played through to some degree, giving us a starting point for our next invention. As you feel ready, taking a pen or pencil to rest, noticing placement of the cap or the setting down of the tool, noticing how you feel about its alignment to the page, establishing the order you like to your workspace, letting the hands rest on the paper while you take a few final deep breaths. Light, just off to the sides, noticing the textures for a moment, something a little different than where you were absorbed with the lines and the drawing. Something to wake things back up. Wiggle the fingers just a bit. Take a few deep breaths. Maybe a stretch. And on their exhalation, open and return to your space. Look around, see what's changed, and prepare to head off into the rest of your day. Any productive or creative act, engagements with the world, or trying to get something done, meets up with some degree of resistance, overlap, conflict, or just simple negotiation of priorities, of which way works best, whether that's internal to you, of trying to find the right route through something to solve a problem, or that's external and working with multiple people to solve bigger problems, like we may have to do lots of times. There's always a bit of that wrestling at the edges, the finding convergence, finding coherence, the accepting a little bit of strangeness, a little bit of discord, but in a productive way, we draw through it, we work into it, we find something new and novel there. And that's what the practice hopefully can bring, is just a little exploration and time to meditate on that element of negotiation, the line, sometimes a boundary, sometimes a connection, sometimes just a line. And it forms relationships, connections, new territories on the paper. And can you bring a little bit of that to how you approach other things in life, whether they're as direct and concrete as that line on a page, or more abstract, as in the concepts and negotiations of your daily practices. I hope you enjoyed the exercise, and if you come often to Mindful Drawing, please leave a comment below, give it a thumbs up, and share with your friends. Subscribe each week for more ways to enter that space of mindfulness, and consider how creativity can spread to all aspects of your life as you find your voice, your language, and your expression. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and draw well. Thank you.